Welcome to the Theory of DFS podcast. I'm Jordan Cooper, the co-author of The Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports. It's a 15-hour audio DFS masterclass at theoryofdfs.com. Join with me, as always, from spikeweek.com. It's Erik Beimfohr, and this is going to be the opposite of last week, I think. Last week, I had my best week, and you closed your laptop early. And this week it's I think the exact opposite. I think like you got yourself a live final seat I saw on Twitter, and I essentially was making out swaps about 30 minutes into the slate. I was essentially I cashed out of 20 lineups. I cashed 0 of them.
that does sound like my last couple of weeks. Close the laptop early. Never even.
I mean, literally, I closed my. I'm making swaps and like it's 128. I think whenever Michael Pittman got caught his second touchdown, I'm like I need to start swapping out some of these. Now, of course, my lineups get even worse because I'm swapping out Godwin, right? Because I got to swap out Godwin. I got to swap out Dan Arnold, right? I got to swap out the Washington defense. Or I got to start swapping all this stuff out. And now my lineups get even worse. At that point, it doesn't like. Being 20 points behind the cash line is no different than being 50 points behind the cash line. At that, so to me, I don't care about what the final scores of my lineups were. But the main thing, I would have been ruined regardless. Probably. I was perfectly fine, Erik. Saturday night, I built my lineups perfectly fine. Obviously, from my strategic decision, based on the projections and ownership that I had, I thought the under-owned games was Chargers, Patriots, Herbert, Allen, Cook with Myers, something like that. Play Eckler as a secondary, something like that. And I thought the Panthers, Falcons game, playing a lot of DJ Moore, a lot of Calvin Ridley. Ridley was going to be chalky, but I mean, playing Kyle Pitts, paying up at tight end because people were punting at tight end. So playing like Darnold, Moore, Anderson, Pitts type lineups. Mixing in Cordell Patterson in there also. And then getting pieces. I was under on the Bills, and the Bills lineups that I made were Allen, Beasley, Sweeney type of lineups, and avoiding Diggs and Sanders. Then I also had I had Rams in every lineup. So I had Stafford stacks, and I also had I either had Henderson, Kupp, Woods, in every lineup I had. I mean, just like it's unavoidable, especially since I'm playing slightly contrarian stacks. I could plug in Henderson, I could plug in Kupp. But when you have someone from the Panthers Falcons game in like every one of your lineups, like that, no one. Patterson made value.
Yeah, and
other than that, no one else got there. So that was just them's the breaks. I said on shows. I said this spot for Panthers and Falcons was high variance. Said this is a game that's not going to be unowned, but underowned for its potential to be 35-28. But understand this is also the type of game. It's two bad teams against each other. So it's so it's either going to be 35-28 or it's going to be 12-10. Right? It's going to be probably somewhere not in the middle of those. And based on the market, I'm going to do that. Same thing for the Chargers. The Chargers-Patriots game could have been 35-28, or it could have been two teams running the ball 70% of the time. And it turned out the other way. I thought the over-owned game, only because it was such the most obvious way to stack, was the Titans-Colts game. If you were able to get different with that, I don't blame you. Like, I didn't play Michael Pittman as a one-off, but I understand if you played him in a stack. Because it's that stack type of T.Y. Hilton's back. I thought Hilton was a better play than Pittman for the ownership. So kind of that was my I didn't avoid the Rams. To me the Rams were the unavoidable team.
Yeah.
Versus all the other teams, but apparently you went with an lineup that I didn't have. I mean you ate the Colts Titans game. And then got different around there.
Yeah, and I guess maybe I had a little bit of a different outlook. That game wasn't that popular other than Michael Pittman. So Carson
AJ
Wentz
Brown was
was
almost 20% owned.
he was 15% owned in the qualifier that I was in, and like 15%. Like I don't know why all of a sudden we care about like the eighth highest owned wide receiver.
Well, it
It's
depends on the contest. Like I'm looking just I don't want to like poo poo what you're doing because you could play chalk as long as you get different elsewhere. So like I really want to highlight the fact
mhm.
that I I went with the strategy of fading the game that I thought was too chalky, and then now I can build my lineups any way I want, than having to worry about that. So like in the game changer, so I'm going by like a single entry $1,500 contest. The top owned wide receivers: Godwin, Pittman, Brown, Sanders. So like from my perspective, I look at that. I see Swift and Henderson as the top owned running backs, which makes sense. So to me, when I see Pittman and Brown as the second and third highest owned wide receivers, you can understand why. I don't think Eric. I don't think they were projected that high. I think they
Yeah. So
ended.
I'm
I ended up that high, but I projected them to be high. I think the difference between what I said and what you're saying is that they didn't project to be as high. Like when you're saying like, oh, if they're both going to be 15% owned, like who gives a shit, right? It's going to be
mhm.
flat enough ownership. I no like changing the ownership the way that I do. I bump Pittman. I put Pittman up to 18 and AJ Brown up to 16, and they came out as basically the second and third highest owned wide receivers, and then they showed up as 28 and 23 in the game changer. In the power sweep, it was 27 and 18.9. So I don't I'm not shitting on you playing them based on the decisions that you made pre-slate. I think because you're gonna say that like pre-slate, it's like if the ownership's gonna be spread out, why don't I just play this game, right?
Yeah, and what if I'm not playing DeAndre Swift and I'm not playing, any
Well,
of
you
this
didn't say you
Falcons
didn't say
stuff,
you weren't playing. Once you say you're not playing DeAndre Swift, and then there you go. There's your
right?
there's your leverage point.
Right, and I have so I didn't play the game changer. I played the 44-44, the fourth down conversion, and AJ Brown is 15.95%. So it's Godwin, Pittman, T. Higgins, DJ Moore, Russell Gage, Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, Emmanuel Sanders.
Right.
So like,
I'm bringing your lineup up. So you came in sixth in that for 30,000.
yes, and
Oh no. Now no, I see your lineup now. Now I like your lineup.
so I was going to talk through. So that game was the best game to me, and I wasn't personally worried. I was definitely the Pittman, like in a vacuum Pittman ownership thing. Like, trust me, I get it. I believe that Carson Wentz was the best cheap quarterback, and every structure of a team that I tried to build basically required a cheap quarterback, and the ownership on people spending up at quarterback, unless you were doing, we will get to like the pivots. Like I really did like the Chargers game, like you mentioned as well. But like people are playing Josh Allen, it's like, okay, well now I know what the Josh Allen teams are going to look like, and like 8,100 for a quarterback, and like who doesn't like Josh Allen, and like 7,200 or whatever for Jalen Hurts. Like, of course, yeah, I get it, I like it, but like the gap has gotten again now so wide between Carson Wentz, Trevor Lawrence, Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater, Justin Fields, who scored, have finally had a good game. There's all those cheap guys down there. Geno Smith had a big game. There was all these like 5K quarterbacks. So like that was kind of where I decided to live. Wentz was my favorite. I wasn't too worried about the Wentz ownership. I knew there'd be some of the him and Pittman thing, but then you bring back the AJ Brown, and then we got the Jamal Williams news. And, so you start to think through this running back thing. Now there's two very clear running back plays, right? DeAndre Swift and Darrell Henderson. And for me, I couldn't possibly agree more. I was like, I'm not fading the Rams. I'm not making a team that has no Rams on it. They're going to score 50 points. Like they're a lock to score 35, basically.
Right. It's just a matter of what the distribution of those points are going to be, but it's going to be points there.
Yeah, exactly. And so like you could almost put, outside of, I guess, maybe like Tyler Higbee or Van Jefferson or something, you have a requisite floor of every single one of those guys is going to score some level of points. It's just like you said, exactly how is it distributed, right? Does Cooper Kupp break the slate? Does Darrell Henderson break the slate? Does everybody, which is kind of what turned out to be, everybody did well the main like 4 guys did well, but not incredible. But that's what. And then we get this weird thing sometimes on Sunday mornings where we've talked about this, and it's not always easy to dissect. Where we get this late news, right? And sometimes it's, I think people try to cookie cutter it too much, and they say, "Oh, we got the late news, so people won't react." Well, then other times we get the late news and people way react. And I thought that that's what was happening with DeAndre Swift. I like DeAndre Swift. Looks great, catches passes, right? Everything checks out. He makes for this perfect correlation if you want to play Hurts, blah, blah, blah. Obviously understand why he was a good play and why he projected well. But when you like take a quick step back, you have Darrell Henderson, who plays every snap, also catches passes on the best offense in the NFL against the worst team in the NFL. Like, there's like almost no paths to failure for Darrell Henderson. And then you have DeAndre Swift, who, yes, he catches passes and all of that, but he's on one of the worst teams in the NFL with a fairly low scoring expectation. He never gets there through efficiency. He has to catch every time he does something well. It's catching 7, has a good game, it's catching 7, 8 balls, whatever, obviously scoring touchdowns, which he was going to have that role. But I felt like between those 2 guys, basically, and with the team, the approach that I had, I was not going to play both of them. I was not playing both of those chalky running backs. And so I was going to fade Swift. And the thing that you were probably going to mention that I got into, I was super high on the little mini correlations in the Steelers-Browns game. And it was because, so like we get this late news with Swift, or like just how the week plays out sometimes for whatever reason. And I get it, like the game was kind of gross, but like we have situations where, okay, Jamal Williams was out, but Kareem Hunt is out also for the Browns, and Nick Chubb is back. And it's like, oh, just because Dearness Johnson, had a big game the week before, I guess people were like $6,800 chunt, $6,800 Nick Chubb was like unowned, like completely unowned. On the opposite side of that game, you have Juju Smith-Schuster out. So you have, $6,700 Deontay Johnson. I think Claypool was like 63 or something. Eric Ebron was also out for the Steelers. And so you have a really condensed target tree on, there's basically like 4 relevant players on Pittsburgh, and we know they're going to throw, blah, blah, blah. So like,
and also since everyone is paying down at tight end, like the difference between Arnold and Freiermuth and Jared Cook,
$800,
right? Is 8, but I looked at Jared Cook the same way. I mean, there's like,
yep, same.
Like, if you're gonna, why not do that instead of playing a chalky Dan Arnold, who obviously got there in garbage time? So that cost you money.
Yeah.
Because Freiermuth scored 14, but Dan Arnold scored about the same also.
Yeah.
But so many more people had Dan Arnold in that tight end spot. And then you still played Chris Godwin as chalk in this lineup.
And so I had him, like, that was a okay, how do I stand going into that afternoon game? I have Godwin and Washington. What do I need? There's tons. There were like tons of swaps you could make.
But you didn't have to. But looking at this lineup after the 1 p.m. games, you feel good with your Wentz, Brown, Pittman lineup. That's like, just stand pat with Godwin and an over-owned Washington defense and just block everyone. And and the thing is, Cleveland, Pitt, no one has those points. So like, just there you go. And it just so happened that that Dan Arnold. Were you at one point? Were you in first place?
Second. I think I got this. I was definitely live for second.
Okay, because six. I'm going up. You had 183.84. So it's the sixth. The fifth place guy had Arnold. Oxen Duck had Arnold. That's a Hunter Henry lineup up there, so you wouldn't have beaten that one. Wilson had Arnold, and the first place lineup had Arnold. So yeah, you would have came in second if Arnold would have just not gotten like the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
like you would have gotten second place for $150,000.
Right, which is what I was tilting when I came out and tweeted, like, this goddamn Dan Arnold fourth quarter is absolutely killing me. Like,
he had like 2 catches in like the whole game until then.
Yeah, he was doing nothing. He had
like
4
points.
fantasy points.
Right.
Yeah, and then obviously catches a ton of balls. The Jaguars love to lay down, all year long. They just give up in all these games, and then they played, and then it didn't end up costing me any money or any place or anything like that. But then they go down and score.
The Travis Homer
right?
when he returns it for a touchdown on the onside kick.
Travis Homer returns the onside kick for a touchdown, and the Jags come out and keep throwing again. Some more. They're throwing again, and I thought Arnold caught another pass or whatever. I was texting with I know the guy who got second in the qualifier, Need Lunch Money. You've probably seen his name. Need Lunch Money is his DK name, and he was starting to chase me down afterwards, and he was like, I don't know whether to feel. He was like, I was starting to feel bad because it was so ridiculous. He's like, I'm gonna catch you. Like I'm literally gonna. Dan Arnold's gonna catch 12 passes in the fourth quarter, and you're gonna lose the seat. But anyway, getting back to it, I kind of the Wentz Pittman thing. I knew that there was obviously the Pittman ownership. I knew there was a level of ownership on AJ Brown, but I personally just kind of how the slate shook out. Like I was uncertain of how I was gonna do it before the news, and I felt stronger once we got the Calvin Ridley news. And once we got the Jamal Williams news, I felt stronger about just how, like, I was pretty sure, like, in that qualifier, like, I'd probably be the only person with any of that Steelers Brown stuff. And it was pretty close to the only person. I was the only person with Freiermuth. Tells you about how owned Dan Arnold was.
Right, in the 4-4-4-4, that contest, the Freiermuth was 2.59% owned.
Which was wild to me. I don't know, maybe I just had... I had a different, I understood the Dan Arnold thing, obviously, and the roster construction around it, but like an $800 difference for Freiermuth. I thought he would be a little bit, I knew he'd be low, but he actually came in even, people just really, really piled on Dan Arnold. So knowing just how owned Dan Arnold was going to be, how owned Swift was going to be, right? There's going to be a requisite level of Eagles ownership, and then you get the Falcons thing, right? You get Russell Gage, and I actually was interested in that game when Ridley was playing. When Ridley was not playing, I was like totally out on that. I was actually thinking about jamming the Panthers defense just because of just how bad the Falcons offense is and is going to be without Calvin Ridley.
But they got Tajay Sharp there, though.
Yeah, Tajay Sharp, the new Julio Jones, Tajay Sharp on his 5th NFL team or whatever. Yeah, but I think that my kind of interpretation of that game was maybe a little bit, especially once the Panthers defense is good, and they also added Stephon Gilmore. This is the first game that Stephon Gilmore played for the Panthers. So I don't think that once Ridley was out, I don't think that they were getting quite enough respect. Like I bet the Falcons team total under. So I was really on the kind of fade the Falcons train.
Yeah, but I was more on the play the Panthers train than play the Falcons. Like
the Panthers were all really good plays, I thought. Like
to me, at their ownership, I thought DJ Moore. I mean, Robbie Anderson is just a Ponzi scheme at this point. But he wasn't the main reason. I like DJ. I thought DJ Moore specifically would be underowned against the Falcons secondary. I thought it was a very wide variance type of thing. So it wasn't that I like the Falcons. It was just that if I'm building lineups with Panthers stacks, I'm gonna have Falcons in them. So like that's just the way it works out. So it's just in the same reason why if I'm not gonna play Titans, like I already thought that even the ownership projections around the industry were off on the Titans Colts game. I thought it would be the highest owned game. I thought that would be the highest owned, and then the Bills, and then. I was right. I looked at the cards got flipped up at 105 when DraftKings finally loads all the information, and I saw that Michael Pittman, and like I look at the power sweep, like a contest that I'm playing, the power sweeps and the spies. Let me go over here. Let me back to slate.
Closed it.
Like in the fourth down conversion. I mean, if I take a look at the $100 spy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I take a look at Pittman is 28% owned, and AJ Brown is 19% owned. Like that's way over even what I thought it was. So I flip the cards and go good. Like I'm satisfied with my decision. I mean, no matter what happens, that I wouldn't play them. Like if I wanted to play that, I would play it as a stack. Not as one, like I would not play AJ Brown or Michael Pittman as one-offs. It would be in some type of game stack. Even if I play them both together and don't play Wentz or Tannehill, like just if these two guys are going to be chalky, let me at least play them together because if one gets there, the other guy gets there. type of
Yep.
thing. But if they're also both going to be chalky, if one guy fails, the other guy fails. So like
Right.
that makes all those lineups dead. So I think from if you considered the ownership of what the actual ownership, like I don't do anything to, like you don't blame me for not having any of these guys, right?
No, and I was talking to people afterwards, and that's what they were like. How was your like approach around those guys being chalky? And I was like, if I'm not stacking that game, I'm not touching those guys, right? Like it doesn't make any sense. And then like we talk about every single week, once I'm committed to this stack, that's not going to be, you're not sneaking up on anybody with Wentz, Pittman, AJ Brown. It's like, okay, let's look. DeAndre Swift was 60% owned in that.
Right.
In
And
the
Eric,
fourth down conversion.
I like your Swift fade more than if you faded Henderson.
Yes,
Because
agreed.
I think the Swift two reasons. And this is the reason why I had less Swift. I still had Swift in lineups.
Well, yeah.
I had Swift primarily. If I was playing Swift, I was playing Devontae Smith with him or Goddard with him to mitigate the ownership. Yep. But the problem is that the Hurts stack, like the Hurts, Smith, Goddard, Hurts, Goddard, like Swift was like, if you were playing Hurts, you were probably playing Swift, and Hurts was one of the most owned quarterbacks. So if you're going to fade, like you weren't necessarily concerned about Henderson with that, because Cooks was barely, I had way more Cooks with my Henderson, with my, I stacked with Cooks, and he did well at low ownership, actually. But I just thought that if Swift gets there, most likely Hurts got there. And since you weren't playing Hurts, you might as well fade Swift. And Henderson, if Henderson gets there, that means Stafford stacks may not get there. Right? So yeah,
and Cup may not go for his
40-point right, exactly, that type of thing. So I think, but if I had to choose between the two, I would have done Swift. And you also must have known that at 11:30, when Inactives came out, that Jamal Williams news will just make Swift even chalkier.
That was basically my take, was like Swift is a good play, like before the Jamal Williams news. Obviously, he projects well. He's like in the cash game mix, blah blah blah. He makes perfect sense as right. Everything you said, like the bring back, right? Like a Jalen Hurts team just like came preloaded with DeAndre Swift yesterday, basically. And so like all that makes sense. And then people want to play these types of guys, right? He makes sense, right? You see all the garbage time catches, like you can envision this. And now you're like, the only thing that's been standing in the way of DeAndre Swift as like a superstar fantasy wide receiver, as Christian McCaffrey on a shittier team, is Jamal Williams. And you're like, maybe that is true, but maybe DeAndre Swift is just DeAndre Swift, and now somebody else is going to mix in, and like now you're just playing a guy on a really really bad team at 60, a team that might not score, right? Which is almost what happened.
You're playing Chuba Hubbard at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And as someone who has played Chuba Hubbard this year, I can tell you it's not a very fun experience, to play these kinds of guys. And so it was just, could DeAndre Swift have come out and had 150 total yards and 8 catches and 2 touchdowns? Yeah, sure, that could have happened. But this, this was the floor. But like, this is what happens, when you're playing, like when you're betting on the Rams, again, comparing the two, basically, like you said, like there's no scenario in which the Rams laid that kind of stinker yesterday. Like they were not going to be down 44-0 to the Texans. They were just going to score. It was just touchdown luck. At that point, basically, it was, and the Henderson didn't even get the bonus, but he got 2 touchdowns, and sometimes that's just how it goes, right? If Kupp gets all of them, you need Cooper Kupp, but there was no way in which the Rams were going to fail. There were very, very real ways in which the Lions were going to fail.
Jared Goff at quarterback, of course there are, right?
and like even they've like lost, like. They didn't have any good wide receivers to begin with. They lost their best one. And it's like Jamal Williams is not, anything special, but he's sadly one of their best offensive players. And it's just like, it's a bad team, and that's just how it goes with a bad team. We'll talk about it like in NBA and stuff sometimes too. It's like, the entire roster from a bad team is out. It's like, okay, yes, you need to be jamming some of these guys, but how far do you really want to go with this on, guys that can't barely play in the G League? And like, that's what it is with the Lions. Like Jared Goff is barely an NFL caliber quarterback, and you're depending upon him to lead this. Swift wasn't 5K. He's 7,100. that was another thing. It's like, even if he was maybe like 6K or something like that, we might have a little bit more of a conversation in terms of a team like this that I'm building. But I couldn't agree more. That was my general stance on Henderson versus Swift. I also thought
what about T hit like does that 5K range? I mean, I just ranted about this on the DFS pregame show. Like, what? I thought T Higgins would be higher owned than Pittman, and T Higgins in the SPY was 13%. Michael Pittman was 28.
And then Higgins was 23. There were some pretty big discrepancies. So in the fourth down conversion, Higgins in the play action is 10%, and then he is 24% in the fourth down conversion. He was a wild swings. Pittman was like a little bit closer to flat across every contest.
Well, but the point that I was making is that between those 5K level receivers, like if I go down from Cooks, Smith, Pittman, Higgins, Myers, Beasley,
Sanders,
even,
Manny
Sanders, like, is there, like, I'm not crazy, because this is me assessing my play, like, because I have to go over things and go, did I miss something? And I went through all of the projection sets. I mean, I aggregate, so I mean, I could see all the projections, and is there a reason why? Like, if you told me all of these guys that I just named were around the same ownership, put them into a hat and play whoever you want. I mean, like that's what it felt like to me. Maybe Myers has a lower ceiling. You can make the case of maybe you don't play Sanders because you're not playing Allen, and so you're playing some other. There's strategic reasons or something like that, but just purely from a projection versus ownership reason, like why other than Steam, other than articles, other than possible other projection sets not having Hilton in, why is Pittman this much more owned than all the other guys? I just like that's the thing that am I missing? Am I missing something there?
I definitely don't have a good answer for that one. I do find it interesting to kind of piggyback on your 5K, like all those 5K guys being owned. So like, again, look, this is just average ownership across all contests, but like out of Pittman in the 5K range, Higgins in the 5K range, I think Gage was cheaper, but Devonta Smith in the 5K range, Manny Sanders in the 5K range, Jacoby Myers, right? So that's like what, 6 or 7 of the top 10.
Right. Plus you have to add Cooks also at 5,700.
Cooks,
he's viable.
Cooks, Judy was 10% average owned across the board. Like you said, Cole Beasley. So like out of the top 15, it's like 80% of these 5K guys, and which like, it's not an argument for them as a collective and how they projected and all that kind of stuff. But like, I also found it funny because it's like, okay, everyone's saving at tight end, right? With Dan Arnold or name a punt, saving at defense, right? Whether it's Washington or whoever you like, that's a cheap defense. And who are you spending? No one's playing Derrick Henry, so who, I was kind of confused about, because if you look at the 6K range of wide receiver, I know AJ Brown was owned, but like AJ Brown in this game, dome, high scoring game against the Colts, no Julio Jones at 6,900 is like a slam dunk. Like I said it yesterday, I was like, AJ Brown to me is the best wide receiver play, like best projection play on this slate. Like he's the target share that you're going to get from this guy and the quality of player that he is. I was like, I don't think he's going to be owned enough.
No, but Godwin, I would agree, Eric. I'm not complaining.
Is close,
right? But I'm not complaining about. See, the thing is that I'm not complaining about AJ Brown. AJ Brown and his ownership in that range, I'm fine with. He projected well. I mean, you had like Keenan Allen there. You had DJ Metcalf there. You got. I mean, should he be that much more owned than anything else? But it's not. It's not like AJ Brown was over 20. Like I take a look at the SPY. AJ Brown was 19. The fourth down conversion was 15. Like. It's not to some excessive level. Like, I prefer DJ Moore in that range, which is perfectly fine. In the SPY, see, like, this is the difference between the contests. In the fourth down conversion, AJ Brown was 15.9 and DJ Moore was 18.5.
Yep.
But I don't play the fourth down conversion. I play more the contest like the SPY. And in the SPY, AJ Brown was 19.3 and DJ Moore was 11.6.
Yeah, huge. Those are huge differences.
Right,
actually.
but I can see from your point in your contest, like, yeah, you're right. Like but I don't even have a problem with AJ Brown because who else on the Titans are you playing? Like,
yeah, so
I understand if you're
say,
stacking that game, who else are you taking? You're not taking it. At least on the Colts, if you said I'm going to leverage off of Pittman and play Hilton, or play Pascal, or play Jack Doyle, or play Moel, you play Jonathan Taylor and stuff. I mean, it just seems like on the Colts, like, why are people so confident? I mean, he got there. That's what I'm saying. Eric, I'm asking for help. I never asked for help before. What the fuck did I miss with Pittman other than he got steamed up and he got there? I mean, like that's all I could view it. I'm going through everything I can because I miss ownership. I mean, I even miss ownership projected him. Like, yeah. I put him at 18%. I thought he would be over-owned at 18, and he comes in like 28, and I go, what did I miss?
So I was just
someone tell me, please. Someone email me. What did I miss?
On the 6 send you do you still have a pager? I know you're kind of a boomer. We can page you or fax you or something like that.
Send me a pigeon. Send me a carrier pigeon. Yeah. Or something.
No, what I was just going to say about the 6K range thing, I found it fascinating because of everything that you said. So I understand Geno Smith is the quarterback. Tyler Lockett is 6,100 against the freaking Jaguars. DK Metcalf is 6,800 against the Jaguars. Keenan Allen is 6,500, right? AJ Brown is 6,900 without Julio Jones against the Colts. There's more. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, obviously Godwin was chalky, but Evans and Moore are, not that much more expensive. But there's this whole 6 and 7K range of like the best wide receivers in the NFL. And some of them are the best wide receivers in the NFL in good matchups. And some of them are missing opponents. Like the same situation that like, the Falcons are out, so now we got to play Russell Gage. But like, you don't need the savings. And yet people weren't playing, right, the Steelers guys or the Seahawks guys or Keenan Allen, like you mentioned, but they were living only in this 5K range, outside of Chris Godwin, obviously, and a little bit of AJ Brown. And I found, or like nobody's playing Robert Woods. No, like Cooper Kupp wasn't even that popular. It was definitely nobody's playing Jamar Chase, but they're playing T Higgins. So I just found it to be kind of that dynamic was super interesting to me. But on the Pittman thing, I don't really have a good reason. I thought that the T.Y. Hilton coming back thing wasn't really a major issue. T.Y. Hilton is pretty much just dust at this point to me, and he actually probably helps the offense a little bit, I guess, as a deep down the field threat. And I think Pittman is in games where they're going to throw. Pittman is definitely there.
No, I'm not saying I never said he was a bad play. I'm just saying based on all the projections I've looked at, there's no I'm looking through. I'm going through. It's like, let me double check this. Is there any projections that have him at 18 median, that puts him so much further above? And there's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing. I mean, in all the projection sets that I looked at, Higgins for $100 cheaper had a higher median. In every single one that I looked at. So if you would have told me that Higgins was 28% owned and Pittman was 11 and it came out that way, at least I would have a reason for that. I would be like, well, if you're using an optimizer, it's going to jam in Higgins for 0.4 more projected points over Pittman in any lineup with a guy that you need at 53 or 5,200, especially since Higgins is 100 cheaper. But that was the case, and then Pittman still, and it's not like Wentz was 15% owned. I mean
right.
That's what I'm looking. I'm going. It to me it looks like just steam, and I'm willing to I'm willing to accept that, and they get there anyway. But I don't see any mathematical reason.
No.
Other than he was talked up by a bunch of people. I mean, like that steam type of stuff, right?
Yeah. I we talked about it last week where I am pulling in some stuff and doing some minor tweaks. So my level of projection had him over Higgins, but like you said, it wasn't such it was
half a point, right? Not enough to make up for that ownership gap.
No, I think and then not even just Higgins. right? Like we just talked about all these Brandon Cook. Why are any of these guys that different from Brandon Cooks? And people are playing the Rams.
Right. That's the thing that I was trying to get less of Cooks in my lineups because I'm like
I
Stafford,
really liked Cooks.
and I did right. Stafford. I'm like Stafford, Cup, Higbee, Cooks. I'm like, who's not? I'm looking at this lineup, going, who's not building this line? And I have in those lineups, I have to play Swift because I'm not playing Henderson in those lineups, right? So now that goes down. But like when the cards flip over and I see Cooks is like 5% owned, I go, and the Rams are owned.
Yeah.
Like, how did that? I projected Cooks for like twice, 3 times his ownership, and that's why I was treating Cooks as a chalk piece. But all the ownership was going towards Michael Pittman. Like all of this ownership just started getting sucked towards Michael Pittman. That now I'm making lineups that I think are too chalky that are actually good and that are actually good enough, right? I think okay, now that I'm doing this, I nailed the cheap running backs. It didn't matter because none of them caught. Michael Carter and Eli Mitchell, especially Eli Mitchell on DraftKings. He was chalky on FanDuel for 5,800. But I'm like, I need in my Cooper Cup lineups, and everyone in Cooper Cup lineups is going down and getting Russell Gage or Van Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still playing DeAndre Swift in those lineups. So it's like, why don't I just pay down twice at running back? Like, why don't I just play some of these cheap Michael Carter projected well. If I wouldn't have thought, and if I didn't look at projections, he probably would have never been on my radar. Why am I playing a Jets running back? Right? And it's like, well, Mike, obviously dump offs and never. I mean, like they've no one. Corey Davis was out.
Yep.
And now it's Jamison Crowder running 6-yard slants, and Elijah Moore doing nothing. I mean, like what else is they going to do other than dump the ball off to the running back? And that's probably why he projected well. And then Eli Mitchell probably doesn't catch a pass, but he'll probably carry the ball 20 plus times, and he's only like 5,400 on DraftKings. I could play him and the 49ers defense against Fields. Fields looked good because Matt Nagy wasn't there. But I was under the assumption maybe Fields gives up 5 turnovers again, and there you go for that. But like Eric, these are the things that I don't like. Like, because I've been sneaking around in some Discords. I don't participate. I just I'm a subscriber and everywhere, so I know the take the everything is take based. I mean, we talked about this like a year ago with back testing your takes of the confirmation bias of like I saw like victory. It's I don't want to call it victory lapping of like you're applying a football related thing to something that is already projectable to explain a success or a failure, yet you're never going to be right. You're always going to be 50-50 regardless of what that is. So like this is what I saw in one Discord about Michael Pittman. It's like Michael Pittman actually became a better play because Hilton would be used as a decoy. Now, could that be true? Yes. But saying that after the fact or being able to project any of that is questionable. I mean, how often are you going to be right on that? Maybe 50-50. Same person. Same exact person had like a ton of Kenny Gainwell. Okay, which was an extremely fragile Eagle situation because figuring that Jordan Howard's not going to do anything. He's just there. Basically, his take, because I read it, take was Jordan Howard is basically there as an emergency. Hopefully he doesn't vulture a 1-yard touchdown if he does come in. Boston Scott will probably get the early down work, but Kenneth Gainwell will be the one that gets the high value touch. Basically, Kenny Gainwell is the DeAndre Swift. Like Jamal Williams is Boston Scott and DeAndre Swift is Kenny Gainwell. And then if you saw after the first half, Kenny Gainwell barely touched the ball at all.
He barely touched the field.
Right, the field at all. Same person. Cordell Patterson news comes out. And you got basically this guy's opinion was you got to jam in Cordell Patterson. Cordell Patterson will be the de facto wide receiver 1 in this offense. And they will run Mike Davis and Patterson together. Cordell Patterson only saw 50% of the snaps yesterday. He only
You
got
want to talk about over-owned?
Mm.
Cordero Patterson was 26.72% in the fourth down
and he
conversion.
was
What do
lucky
you?
to get his 18 points.
I know.
And Mike
And
Davis
again,
got, but the thing is, we're not victory lapping or anything like that. We're just explaining these are situations that are fragile. So applying like a certainty, a confidence on a fragile situation is a poor way of playing DFS. And then overfitting those takes over what the results were makes you just be biased for the next slate and the next slate and the next slate, because you'll remember that, like, for me to say I did good playing a 7% Michael Carter and a 5% Eli Mitchell doesn't mean it. Like, in and of themselves, it's like, no, I think they were under-owned for what they were, and they got there. I thought Pittman was over-owned, and he got, like, sometimes it's going to be right. Sometimes a guy that's
yep,
over-owned is going to get there. Sometimes a guy that's under-owned is not going to get there. But
yep.
like, I'm not basing it on football things of like, well, that's why the thing with Pittman, it's like we're numbered. Like, what did I get wrong for him to be so much more owned than everyone else? And if it's just Steam, okay, then I have to adjust my Steam rating for my ownership. But the thing is that had I put Michael Pittman at 24, let's say, I would have just X'd out the game. So like my decision wouldn't have even changed. So like,
Yeah.
I look at that, but then I take a look at other analysts that are just overfitting oh yeah, you had to play Pittman because of the game environment and everything. It's like, well, you said that after the fact, but you're the same person that you're not mentioning how much Kenny Gainwell you have. Like the same person that's saying, see, I told you, is never pointing out, see, I told you, to all his Kenny Gainwell lineups that are sitting there hoping that obviously Gainwell got some garbage time to get some 4 points. But it's like, you're going to be right with those types of takes on fragile situations 50-50. So to me, the way that I perceive it and the way I play is that I just disregard them completely, because if it's a coin flip anyway, why even bother doing it? I mean, like, that's the game theory aspect of it. If something comes down to like a 50-50 completely, like, it really, that's the types of decisions you put no time into.
Right. And you spend the time assessing what your competitors are going to be doing, right? Because, okay, so if it's a 50-50, if the Gainwell thing was a 50, so I thought, here's the example from the lineup that I played. I thought the Nick Chubb thing was like a 50-50. He's in years past, anytime he or Kareem Hunt are out, the other one assumes a close, let's call it 80% of that backfield. You know, they basically, you know, they catch the passes now, right? Which is part of the issue with Chubb. Hunt is kind of the pass catcher. Historically, the other one, including Chubb, when Hunt is out, just kind of takes over. You know, this other guy, Dearness, or they've had other guys in the past, will mix in, right, a little bit, because no running back plays every snap. You know, that just doesn't really happen anymore. Najee is taking a water break here and there nowadays.
But it's a fragile enough situation that Chubb could easily, for 6,800, have 100 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, and he's coming in at 5-6% owned. So like,
yep.
But so many people, but the football take people are the ones that are like, no, well, I have a take on it. Like right. Why isn't the Chubb situation as 50-50 as the Gainwell situation, as the Pittman situation, as the Cordell Patterson situation? I mean, we're dealing with a highly variant sport regardless. So to be that confident on things, I mean, that's the whole game that we're playing. We're trying to exploit other people's confidence in things that are extremely variant. And
right, and so
you went the Chubb route of like, everyone thinks Chubb's not going to be like that, and you're going to go, well, at 6%, it's worth it to do it. It's worth it to take a shot. And he got the same amount of points as Swift, so it's not like he did well. It's just that Swift was so high owned that you were able to match him, you know, and not lose anything because of it.
Right, and Dearness did get the touchdown. So it's like that fragile situation. Dearness mixed in. Dearness was playing a good chunk of passing downs. So that fragility, like you said, that 50-50 coin flip, it actually didn't turn out in the way that, you know, you would hope if you're playing Swift. He didn't get the touchdown. He didn't get some of the passing down work. And also Baker Mayfield is god fucking awful at football. So they didn't score a lot of points. So like, the thing about that, like with the team that I played, and I'm trying to like kind of like make sure I'm getting, whether I played well or not this week, anyone can have their opinion on that, but I'm making sure to like simplify, my galaxy brain. We get on here sometimes and we'll talk through the week and I'm like, I did this and I did that. And it's like, dude, just fucking chill out. Like, like you're playing in a 250 man contest. Like, you don't have to do that many things. And so I came in and I decided, based on what I did not expect Pittman to get that level of steam. I was like, I don't know, let's call it 20%. Ballpark it at 20, maybe low 20s or something. Wentz was my favorite cheap quarterback, so thus Pittman makes sense with him. AJ Brown was my favorite wide receiver on the entire slate, so that stack makes perfect sense. I wanted to fade Dan Arnold. I wanted to fade DeAndre Swift. Excuse me. And then it's like,
and jamming the best plays. Then you have Godwin and the Washington defense. Who cares?
Exactly. Godwin, Washington defense,
and
right?
Henderson, and you got Henderson right. There you go.
Yep. And bang, like so. But it's like that Chubb. Like once I made the decision to make a couple of fades and the decision to play some of that chalk, it was like I got this one game situation that also happens to be the pivots off of the chalk, right? Chubb and Deontay, Chubb and Freiermuth, however you want to do it, are the fades of Swift and Arnold.
And technically Ridley, if Ridley played in that $6,600 range.
Yep, exactly. So it was like it all made perfect sense as the lineup coming together, and people be like, "Oh, why did you play this chalk?" People were kind of asking me that, like, "Oh, how did you decide to play this chalk piece?" I'm like, "Well, first of all, I will admit I did not get the Pittman ownership right. I did not expect 30. Like that was pretty wild. I definitely admit that, but I was like, to quote you, I was like, because it's about the lineup. It's not about that player. I left myself just enough, optionality that if I wanted to play, Godwin was the best play to me on the slate. Washington football was the best defensive play, and I didn't care about their ownership if everything in the early slate went right for me, and it was pretty close, and it was pretty close to go to completely going right for me. Yeah, like you said, lineups not players.
Right, and you could have gone a different way by fading Henderson, playing Swift. Right, or playing a different, saying I'm going to play the Ram stack, and in the Ram stack you play Swift and over Henderson, and then maybe you play Derrick Henry in that lineup to play Jonathan Taylor to leverage off the other. Like all of those are equally good ways of thinking about lineups and not players. I mean, I do that more so with numbers than with thinking it through. But I'm sure that if I ran your lineup through my ownership projections, like I could even, I mean the thing is I didn't really have the Steelers and the Browns, like I didn't have any of them, but if you're going like the thing that I liked about your lineup is that if you're going to play Chubb, why not play Freiermuth? Why not play a Steeler on the other side? Like you said, if Chubb has a big 80-yard run, now the game speeds up and the Steelers have to pass more. And you have the target hog for the Steelers and Deontay Johnson, and you have the leveraged tight end off of Dan Arnold. I mean, like to me, it makes complete sense to correlate. Like Deontay Johnson, people may look at and go, "Well, why'd you play him?" Well, it's more the fact that you're playing Chubb. It's like you could have played DK Metcalf in that spot, but DK Metcalf has nothing to do with Nick Chubb. So if you're going to choose between the two, you could have played Keenan Allen in that spot, but it's like, but the difference in projection between Keenan Allen and Deontay Johnson isn't great enough to not just take the correlation between two sides of a game.
How in these, particularly in these smaller fields, right? I did not need the nuts to win, this week, because I'm only playing in 100 to 500 man fields. In the two contests we've mostly been talking about, this live final qualifier and the 4-4-4-4, were no bigger than 250 people. And so I want to, without getting over leveraged, or without getting too galaxy brain, or without giving up too much projection, how do I limit the amount of things I need to get right? That's exactly what happened. I got the one game right. Obviously, Colts Titans needs to shoot out, and it does. And I need Browns Steelers to go exactly like what you said. Let me get Chubb having some success. Maybe Chubb breaks off a long run in the first half. Now he's a smash. And we know what happens with the Steelers when they just get crazy pass happy. And I'm just going to rack up all those catches. Like every, Big Ben's going to throw it 55 times, and Deontay's going to get 18 of them, and Freiermuth's a cheap tight end who is leverage off of Dan Arnold, and it's like if those two things go my way, I got the best plays around it. Give me Henderson, give me Godwin, give me Washington, and it's like all I got to do is get those two things right, and then it's wheels up. And I didn't even get those two things. I only got one of those things right. I didn't even get those two things right. But just by kind of making a lineup that works well together, sometimes that's how it breaks for you. There were tons of different like little 3v3s off of those Browns and Steelers and stuff that I could have done that worked better. But like you said, this one for me, and my approach to the slate made the most sense, and it allowed me to basically just have to get two things right to like just completely blow the slate away. And obviously that didn't happen, but it was close.
Right. I have your lineup here, and in my aggregate projection set, with in my calculation, your lineup was slightly over leveraged for the size of your contest. This projection versus ownership, to me at least, fits more of a power sweep spy 5,000 player field. But I mean, it's still, I'm looking at the projection. It's still, if I compare it to the optimal, like it's good enough. But you've done lineups before where I've seen the projection versus ownership and go, like you're playing a milli maker lineup. So It's like if you add the correlation to this gets bumped up to about maybe 140. No, I'm not trying to poo-poo your lineup. I think it's a good lineup. I'm just like,
I don't give a shit.
Right, you don't give a shit. All I'm saying that based on the projections that I had, like it's not. I just didn't get to the Cleveland Pittsburgh. I wasn't playing that game. I wasn't utilizing that game. I understand why you would do it that way, but they were just like my projection on Deontay Johnson. Like you were overspending by like 800 because a lot of those 5K, like Brandon Cooks, I had for literally more points than Deontay Johnson for 1,000 cheaper. So that's the only reason why the projection comes down. But if you're already betting on Chubb, then why not play Deontay Johnson? Like to me, I get the lineup. So like had I had Chubb in my player pool, Deontay Johnson would have appeared in line. It would have ended up that way.
Right.
I still have to come on and kind of shit on something that you do, right?
I don't give a shit. I made the money.
Right.
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
As long as I'm on the top of the leaderboard, what's it matter? But this also highlights something that you see in the YouTube comments or people like, and if you take just the account of an NFL season, which is still too short, we think in terms of we're also playing NBA, we're also playing MLB, so it's not just the NFL. Like we did this last year, and it's a very similar type of thing where we do it for 18 weeks during the NFL season. And probably maybe 16 out of those 18 weeks, you're showing up going with an air ball, right? You're showing, and people are listening, going, why am I? What do I care what Eric has to say? He constantly shows up as a loser, right?
Well, faded Derrick Henry again, faded Cooper Kupp again,
right?
Fucking idiot.
But the thing is that one week, 1 or 2 weeks, makes up all your profit for. Like, yes, I know you got a live final qualifier seat, so that has to turn into something, but there's a minimum payout on that also.
Yeah, 20. It's 20,
right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, but you in realized equity, you had a $50,000 day, right?
Almost 60, yeah.
Right. So
but that's it, and that obviously helps make the season. But like I was a couple of Dan Arnold catches away from literally making like the year. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're talking 150 plus or something like that. And so that it proves your exact point, right? That like I'll show up, we're in week 8. This is the first time I showed up where I was like, hey, this is a really good week. And hopefully we can do that one more time this year. And I'm probably going to show up a lot of other times. And you just hope that the bad weeks, right? Maybe you can sneak some min cashes in there to keep yourself afloat and not brick. That was my problem was I min cashed 1 out of the first 7 weeks, basically. And luckily the RG projections and the blitz projections and stuff were good in cash games. That was always keeping me afloat, not my tournament play. But that's what you're just trying to, like, I'm just trying to hang on until you get, it's just kind of like this and this and this. And then you get the one big spike, and that's my season. And that's how luckily I've been able to train my brain to not like want to kill myself when you go through the 2 months or whatever of losing.
Yeah, but that's the reality. I always want to highlight that playing well looks like that.
Yeah.
Like the only way to get the big spikes is to play that 9 out of 10 times you lose.
Yep.
Right? So if you're not playing for the 9 out of 10 times that you lose, you end up going. I mean, I get emails from people, and I talk to people that are like, I've been playing DFS for 5 years, and I've not had a top 5 finish in any GPP I've ever played. Like which is a long time to play for 5 years, on and off, maybe not every day, and it's like and they go like, it seems like I win more often. I win, quote, I'm in cash, get money back more often than I'm comfortable, but I'm just seems like every year I'm and they're playing lower stakes, so it's like, yeah, every year it's like I lose like $1,200, right? They're playing lower stakes. They're playing $3 contests, $5 single entry type of stuff. But it's like, after 5 years, like I saw some of your stuff, I watched some of your shows. Like, can you explain to me like why, 5 years of not like, is that me just being unlucky? And I'm like, then they finally get Roto Tracker, right? And they put their CSV and then they show it to me. And I especially look at their finishing position graph, and it's like 0.7% in the top 1%, and like tons of stuff in the mid range. And I go, yeah, because you're not playing, you're not taking enough risks, right? You're playing very lower variance lineups. You have to play higher variance lineups. Mm-hmm. And it says, so how much? And they always talk about how much per slate do I play? What contest should I play? It's like none of that matters unless you can make good lineups. And he said, you know what the best type of lineups there are? And they go, well, the ones that could score possibly the most points. I go, no, the ones that could either be in first place or in last place. So if you're not getting last places, you're probably doing something wrong, because your lineups should be variant enough that you do get last places. Now, a lot of these large field contests have such bad lineups that your last place finish is still like a top 80% finish. So like my lower couple is very low, because there are people that don't submit lineups, that have injured players. So like you're not going to get all the way in the bottom. But just until you drill that into your head of like, playing well means losing 90% of the time, like you don't get those spikes and you end up bleeding money away. So these short-term, like, well, how's your NFL season doing? It's like it's been 8 weeks. Imagine saying on April 11th, how's your MLB season doing? Right? It should be treated the same exact way of like, how we've played more NBA slates this season already than you will play all NFL season. And NBA just fucking started. I mean, like you were like 15 slates into NBA or something, 15, 16 slates. No, I don't see people in Discord going, oh my God, such a bad NBA season, right? This has been the absolute, I must be doing something wrong. I must be, like, you don't see that in NBA after 16 slates, but 16 slates in NFL is almost the whole season. And people look at that and they go, like, oh my God, I only won 1 week out of 16. It's like, did you win enough that 1 week to make up for the other times? No. Okay, well then it's a losing. Then you go, you lost on the season. But that one win could have been $100,000, and that's I know probably the people listening to this understand that, but I mean, I always want to highlight that over and over and over again, that most of the, if we weren't good players, if we weren't profitable players, we'd show up and be like all the other podcasts that I listen to. What did you get right? What were your good calls? Yeah. What were your bad calls? And no one ever talks about like how well they did and how bad they did. If we're doing a podcast for 18 weeks of an NFL season and we were good players, 16 out of probably 14 out of 18 weeks, we'd show up and we'd both say how bad we did. Right? Right? 14 out of the 18 weeks. Then 2 out of the 18 weeks, one of us would be going, bink something, right? Big hit. Mm-hmm. And then and then 2 other weeks would be the other person that says, right? It would be that thing, I did horrible and you did great. And you did great and I did horrible. Like, like it shouldn't a podcast that actually talks about DFS in reality should sound like it should sound like two people should sound that 80% of the time it's two people talking about how horrible they did. Right? That's really what it should. I mean, that's really what it should be. It should be two people if they're maximum MME players. Be like, yeah, I'm glad that I got 60% of my money back, and the other guy's like, I had minus 90%. It was awful. Right? That would be normal. And then the 2 weeks later, one guy would be like, yeah, I kind of like minus 20% survive in advance, and the other guy would be like, I made $3 million, right? I mean, like it would be something. It would be something like that. Like that's what it's supposed to sound like. Because I do the pregame show, and it's still, I get new people in, and they're like, why should I listen to you if you lost yesterday? Like because even in cash games, like you're gonna lose the best players are gonna lose 40% of the time, right? I mean, like.
Yeah.
Like just handling those losses, and like yesterday was a bad day, and I'm more like Eric. I must feel that this is me sitting on the psychologist's couch, okay, to tell me because you do it, and I don't. I've always used cash games as a way to smooth out swings. But I'm not like the most profitable cash game player.
Yeah.
I'm a profitable one, but I mean like what's a 2% ROI? I mean like not it's not much. But on a week to week basis, like that's the lineup that I sweat the most. Because I have the most amount of volume. Right?
Yeah.
So like I'll play all the play on DraftKings, FanDuel, early only, late, stuff like that to diversify. But it's like I played yesterday. I played $2,400 worth of GPP lineups. Okay, if I just played the $2,400 worth of GPP lineups, I would have gotten back I think $60. I mean, like literally, like. But to me, that's okay. I lost $2,300. But if I'm playing $8,000 to $10,000 worth of cash, and I only win 12% of my head-to-heads, like that's like an $8,000 loss. Like. Plus the GPP losses, like I could like in MLB. A lot of times I didn't play cash. I play $1,500 worth of MLB GPP entries, and the most I could lose is $1,500. If I airball everything, that's $1,500, and even that doesn't happen that often. You get maybe you get 10%. 1,500 turns into 200, and it's like okay, that sucks. But most nights it'll be 1,500 turns into 1,100, turns into 900, turns it like where you're not losing that much. But let's say you played $8,000 worth of cash on top of it and lose. Like, well, the next day you're going to play $8,000 worth of cash and go up. And like but those, from a raw value perspective, monetarily, like you have to think of like how much money is, like, I have to look at the percentages. So like yesterday, I lost an equivalent of, it's going to sound ridiculous. This is why I need a DFS psychologist. And maybe this is why I play too conservative. My bankroll is too conservative. Yesterday, I lost big. I lost 3.4% of my bankroll. Okay,
that sounds like a normal, way normal Sunday for most people, and yeah, that's.
But in raw money. But if you relate it to raw money,
yeah,
it's like to a normal person, you'd be like, oh my god, I can't believe you lost that much money. But it's only 3.4% of my bankroll. So like, but I feel it's weird because in poker I never felt this way as much. Where it's like I could lose $1,000 in a buy-in or something on a night and be like, okay, that's $1,000. I have a $50,000 bankroll. Who cares? I mean, like, I go up and down. But also I was younger. I had less expenses or dependents or anything like that. But it makes me feel as if like if yesterday I didn't play cash games and just played 2,400, I emotionally, from a mental health perspective, because I know you're big into mental health.
I am. Right,
and we're all humans, and I'm the robot. Now I'm the robot coming to you. I'm getting human feelings.
Well, it's like one of the movies where the robot starts to become feel human and become like iRobot or something like that. The robots take over.
Right.
Is that what you and Osimo and you goddamn robots are gonna start actually having human emotions? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, but the fact is that I feel like the whole point of me doing like I could do NBA cash games, and I do that, and I'm playing like every day, and I'm playing primarily an optimal lineup, one of the top
Yeah.
optimals, and I basically took that money aside. I said I'm going to play with X amount of money. That's my fictional percentage of the bankroll, and it's like I know what the maximum I could lose. I know what the swings of that, and I could go ups and downs with that. But with NFL, like it's the week to week, maybe it's the week to week basis of it where
Yeah.
like in NBA, I feel like if I airball an NBA slate, well, the next day I'm talking about more like in cash games.
Mm-hmm.
GPPs I can handle because I'm not playing $50,000 worth of GPP. I'm playing on an NBA night I'm playing $800 worth of GPP. I'm playing the $100 Showtime and the $200 Splash and the stuff like that. And if I airball that, so be it. But it's like if I'm playing $2,000 per site, FanDuel, DraftKings, and I airball that, it's like, well, the next day I play $1,900 per site, and then I win that money back, and like it's just it's gonna go up. My graph is gonna go like this, and
Yeah.
at the end of the season, I end up with more. I mean, like that's what happened last year. I mean, I looked at my last year's graph for cash games in NBA, and there were times where I lost 5 slates in a row on all the sites, but there are also ones where I won 5 days in a row. I mean, so looking at that long-term perspective, it's like, that's fine. But in NBA, it feels like if I lose, well, tomorrow's another slate. But in NFL, I don't. So it makes me feel, Eric, that's like maybe for the marginal return that I'm getting on cash games, that I just don't bother playing them. For the sake for not because of like, oh, I'm not good enough to beat them. It's like over the course of an entire season, yes, that's I go 10-8 and have a small marginal ROI. At 11-7, like that, but that's all you're doing in cash games. But for the volume of play that I'm playing, to make it worth that 2 to 3% worth it, is it worth me? Oh my god, I lost this one. Oh my god, I won that. Oh my god, I lost this much. Oh my god, I won. Then just paying like $2,000 worth of GPP lineups, and that from a mental health perspective, I like if I put in 2,000, get 0. Like I'm expecting that in GP. Like in GPP, I'm going, can I get it? Can I get 80% of my money back today? That's a successful day, right? Because I get to survive in advance, and the upside of that $2,000 is $100,000. The upside of the cash game lineups is, I'm doubling my money, and I'm putting too much stress on that. I'm focusing on okay, if I don't play Pittman, I play this guy, and if I play this guy, then I have to set up the swap that if I'm wrong, I got Arnold, Godwin, and Washington defense in the last spots.
Yep.
And then I get to switch to Jared Cook, Jacoby Myers, and Seahawks. But I have to think about that type of stuff where it's like if I'm only getting 2-3% return, and I get really bummed out when I airball multiple sites in cash games, but I wouldn't for the GPPs. Like why even is the 2 to 3% even worth it? Obviously, I'm leaning towards the sides that it's not worth it.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you bring that up. Well, two things. It's most interesting because I think the casual player, and I could be wrong about this. Maybe the casual player's expectations are more in line, like with you and I. But the casual player, I think, would feel the opposite. For so long, it has been like, people like you've mentioned
the 80-20 rule, right?
Yeah, stupid fucking 80-20 rule, and the dumb. How much do you play in cash? And right, all that dumb stuff that ignores all the actual most important questions. But they would feel like, oh, I don't want to go into they don't want to be like me, and so. I'll come back to this. I play much less cash than you, and as the year goes on, I play even less and less and less, and probably by the end, I won't be playing. Probably not that far from now, I won't be playing any. I do it early in the season because I think that there is an edge, and I can do it like a robot. Basically, I can once my show is done on Sunday morning, 15 minutes before slate, I can click the optimize button. Sometimes I tinker a little bit with that, but it's like a fairly brainless.
Right, because in the beginning, you're doing it because in the beginning of the season, it's more likely to be less sharper players in contests, and they kind of go broke over time.
And I know that I'm not the best at it, and so I know that it's okay that I'm going to lose to Empire Maker, and I'm going to lose to some of those guys because there's enough other guys that are going to finish in the top and are in the bottom of the double ups, or that are just going to make bad teams to make it a profitable thing, which helps for the first 2-3 months of the season, help smooth out some of those edges. So I do that, but we're soon to be approaching a time where I'm not sure it's going to be helping me smooth out anything at all, because I'm just going to be playing against I'm just coin flipping with other really good teams. And so I think the normal person would tend to think like, oh, I don't want to play all my volume in tournament, play whatever my volume is that Sunday in tournaments, because it's probably likely that I'm just going to bring zero back, right, in tournaments. And I don't want to do that. I want to have that currently winning say something, even if it's like, oh, I put 2,000 in cash and I got 800 back. It's like, oh, I could have put that 2,000 in tournaments and got zero back. And people have that psychology, part of it. I think, and like I said, I could be wrong, but I agree with you, like 100%. I also think the mental part of it. Sometimes for me, when I've played cash, I will find myself in this spot where it's like, okay, this guy is the chalk. I can just like write him. I can more easily write him off for tournaments, like, because I got him. I got my exposure to him.
Right. Worst case scenario, I just win all my cash games. Right.
Exactly. Which is a gambler's fallacy.
Right. You shouldn't be thinking that way. Right.
And everybody has him. If he goes off, you're like, oh, I'll be good because I'll still win in cash. Well, that's actually not true. It just means that everyone in cash has that score, and now you're going to be coin flipping and other stuff. Yeah, there's going to be some bad people that didn't play Daryl Henderson or something, but it's like that's like such a small percentage. It actually doesn't move the needle at all. And so it's the opposite. So it mentally sometimes I've certainly gotten better at that, but again, my catchphrase, everybody's human, it does seep in sometimes here and there. You're making those final decisions leading up to the slate, like, okay, do I play this guy or do I play that guy? I got him in cash, so I'm going to play this other little 2v2. I'm going to play this other secondary correlation, whatever. And I feel the same way as you. I feel better when I just go in, play whatever amount in tournaments. If I brick, I brick. I show up here on Mondays. I proudly hold my L about whatever stupid ass play that I made that didn't work, and we move on to the next. But when it is that cash game thing, I think because there is a lot more to me that goes into it for very minimal return, right? Like the best players on the planet are getting okay returns, but like it's still nothing special.
Okay returns on massive amounts of volume to make up for the raw money, right? But that's how but Eric, that's how I see it. I see it. It's weird for me to say that, like we mentioned before, like if you treat NFL, I think we're both doing something wrong. If we treat NFL as we treated any other sport, I don't think we do. I don't think even we do. I think most people don't. I think the what happens, and it definitely happens to me, is that NFL is has the biggest prize pools, the most amount of liquidity, and the softest fields. Yes. Right? It's still hard. I mean, it's not easy. Of course. But in comparison to the other sports, you're going to get a lot more casual money in there. It's also
there's no casual money in NBA. Like, wait a month and there's not going to be any casual money in NBA.
But it's also the shortest. It's also like it's 18 weeks, and that's it. So, if it was imagine if we treated an NBA season. Like NBA season, we don't go in going, I need to it feels like an NFL. You're going, like, the mindset is, I got to up my volume because I only got 18 weeks of the games with the highest edge, and I got to just take advantage of it as much as possible. Now, some people are willing to take that. That's perfectly fine. That's how I've been treating it, right?
Yeah.
The amount of volume that I play on an NFL Sunday is like 5 times higher than what I do on an normal NBA day. But
same.
If we're treating it as if an NBA slate and an NFL slate, it's all one long game, long run, it doesn't matter. My MMA slate and my soccer slate and my, like, one slate equals one slate, then what would make the difference? Why shouldn't you just play whatever normal volume you do on an NBA slate, on an NFL slate? but you're only playing more because it's like it's only once a week, right? Or golf, it's only once. MMA, it's only once a week. I gotta get my entire edge as much as possible instead of just treating one slate like one slate. Or is I know that you in theory you should be gearing your volume and your content selection based on the edge that you believe you have, right? That's what
Mm-hmm.
it should be. So I can understand upping your volume in NFL if you believe that the fields are much weaker. So I get that. But it seems like people aren't thinking of it that way. Like I'm not thinking of it that way, and you're not. When I say people,
Mm,
I'm including ourselves in this. That we're
correct.
thinking it more specifically
Specifically.
us, right? Specifically us. And it's well, I got to play like all these head to heads. I got to play all these the lower stakes on FanDuel. I got to play all the $1 and $2 double. I got to take advantage of this. And even if I 2v2 I lost, whatever. Like on the season on FanDuel, I think I'm 6-2 on FanDuel and 4-4 on DraftKings. So we're not talking about like, oh my god, like I'm losing money in cash games all that. Like no, I'm
Yeah.
not. It's just that the last week, like yeehaw, and this week it's like it's all gone. Like it's just like it's like whatever everything I did had good results last week are just like it's like I wiped them out in one shot, and it's like what at the end of the day I'm gonna come out with like maybe 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 a couple of $1,000,
Yeah.
right? And my volume,
Right.
right, a couple of at the end of the season when all things are said and done, if I have a within median range, within the 40th to 60th percentile range, I'm gonna come out with like $5,000 or something like that, and it could be plus $5,000, it could be minus $5,000. It's gonna be somewhere within that range, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like why am I doing why am I going through all of this? Why am why? Yet I know that in GPPs, if I just played $2,000 of GPPs for 18 straight weeks, like my plus or my minus is probably like 10,000, but my plus could be like 500,000. Right? It seems like I have the much
Yeah.
higher ceiling, but the floor is lower. But it's still that there's a finite like I'm not going to be playing $10,000 worth of GPP volume. I'm playing like the most if I airballed every slate and I just played $2,000 worth of GPP lineups for 18 slates, like the most I could lose is 36,000. But that would be that would be a 4 standard deviation result. I mean minus
Yeah.
4. I mean I'm going to get some money back most slates, and then some slates I'm going to make a little money on, and hopefully on one slate I bank, 50 to 100 grand, and then that makes up for everything, and I have $75,000 in profit. But it's going to
Yep.
be somewhere within. But there's a finite loss. But in the cash game realm, there's no upside. Like it seems like I don't mind the lower floor for GPPs because I know that's what it is, and I do that for NBA and I do that for MLB. And when
Mm-hmm.
I think in terms of this year, I will be playing 500 slates of DFS. 18 slates of NFL shouldn't make that much of a difference if I'm playing other sports or any. Do you get what I'm talking about? Like we
Yes.
treat this NFL like it's so different, and we react and we contest select differently and we up our volume, And if you saw like, oh, how about an MLB Wednesday slate? They're running a 4-4-4-4. Like you would say, like I'm not fucking playing that. But since there's only 18 weeks of the NFL, it's like. No, dude, I gotta play this every. I gotta play it every. I mean,
Yep.
isn't that a flawed thinking?
I think so it's interesting because I definitely haven't, you can tell I haven't thought about this enough, and I am certainly guilty of this.
Is
I
it
think
viable to think about? Am I at least bringing up a good point?
yeah. Yeah, so what I will say, I think the cash game thing is maybe even more interesting in a sense that you're building in this fake floor is kind of what you're doing while like it's kind of like like we're comparing two DFS plays, and one like technically has a little bit of a higher floor, but it's really like not even that substantially different. So like I don't know, Deshaun Jackson versus whatever, Braxton Berrios, right?
Right.
It's like their floors are really not that different, but the perception of Braxton Berrios is like, okay, he's going to catch, I know he's going to catch a few passes, and Deshaun Jackson, oh, he's got to catch the long bomb. When in reality, the floor is really not that different, but the upside is obviously substantially different on the two players. And I kind of feel like that's the case in NFL cash games. Again, it's not that you can't make money at them. It's not that, right, just to reiterate all of that, it's not that you can't be successful in them. It is that with everything like that you're outlining, there still is a floor, right? You can get wiped out in cash games, but like it may be a little higher than these tournaments because you're more likely to go to zero in GPPs, but I'm not sure that it's so substantially different. And I'm definitely not sure that the likely ROI is worth kind of everything else that comes with it. In particular, maybe giving up, like you said, giving up the access to the ceiling. And that's the big thing for me as it relates to volume, playing more volume in NFL. Especially what we've seen already with like the NBA contests, what happens to MLB contests as the year goes on. You know, I know that there's other sports, but I don't play every sport, right? Like my favorite sports outside of the main big three are actually the college sports, and the prize pools are very small for those. You know,
Just like with me in soccer, to me, I just can't even get enough money down good in soccer anyway. So I don't mind. I mean, I'm never concerned about that. Like to me, I'll play soccer cash games until, you know.
Yep.
I mean, I'm good at them, and it's not like I'm not doing it for expected return. I'm just doing it because I'm playing soccer, and it's, you know, I get $1,000-$1,500. It's a thing to people. I don't think people understand like how low the percentage is. Like a good cash game player, I'm not talking about a great one, especially once you move up in stakes.
Yeah, that's huge. A huge part of it.
Let's say you have a 3% return, which is about what I have. I have between 2 or 3%. If you play a $10,000 worth of cash games on a slate, if you have a 3% ROI on $10,000, you have to risk $10,000. You're getting $300, right? So you have to have the bankroll, okay, to have $10,000 on a slate. Now, I'm much more conservative with bankroll management, but some people aren't. Some people play 10% per slate, okay, which I think is the max you should be playing per slate, like that. But let's say we're gonna do to the maximum. So if you play 10% per slate, and you're playing $10,000 per slate, that means you have a $100,000 bankroll. So with a $100,000 bankroll, assuming no variance, right? Your expected return per slate is $300. Now, obviously, that goes up a little by little as your bankroll goes up and down, right?
But it's the small.
But let's say you did that on a consistent basis. So $300 a day sounds good, right? $300 in the NFL. You have to play 18 weeks, and we're not including the afternoon only slate. We're just like the main slate type of thing. So $300 times 18 is $5,400.
No money.
Yeah, but the swings that go back, but you need a $100,000 bankroll to even do that. So a lot of the high end cash players are playing playing $100,000 worth of volume, and then you need $1 million bankroll, and then even then your 3% return is $3,000. But you could win or lose $100,000 on any given day. So you like your return is X, but your swings from why do you think I only this is the reason why, like I said, like I lost 3.4% of my bank, like to other people that play much more risky, in my opinion. They would have lost 10%. They would have lost 9.8% and of their, like, I just, for my mental health and for my goals, like we talked about last season, I don't want those swings. But now I'm considering, am I being too conservative now by, like, should I even just cut out these cash games for that? Like, what am I gaining like in a 2 or 3% environment? Maybe I still play them on FanDuel and I just mega max out the low stakes until they restrict me there. But then because that's what I'm doing more so in NBA this year. Like FanDuel, I'm playing just because I can't handle 2 sites for GPP and NBA. I'm not doing multi-entry in NBA. I'm focusing on 10 lineups. And then still playing cash games only because essentially I'm playing a top optimal anyway.
Right.
But I'm not upping my like I didn't up my volume. I'm playing at a level in which like I could handle the swings and I'm profitable at. And it makes it easier for me to get my goal. Why aren't I doing that in NFL? Like
So
that's the question I'm trying to ask myself. Is the reason I'm not doing it in NFL is because I feel like I'm missing out on edge. And that's why I
yes,
want to like, oh, I need to play all the games and all the stuff and all this stuff. And I get the in my belly, I feels like that's what I'm doing, like emotionally. And in my head, intellectually, it feels like that's the wrong way to look at it. Or people will just listen to this and go, "Wow, you're even more of a nit than I thought you were." Like, like, and like a lot of the stuff that I ponder is like, is it me? Maybe it's this. Here's another thing. Maybe it's a fear that I'm not good enough. That I'm
everybody
not
has.
that I play conservatively because I still don't know whether or not I could quantify my edge at all, and I'd rather lean towards that. Maybe I don't have as much of an edge as I think. That I think more people think the opposite way. They think they have way more of an edge than they do.
Hmm.
I know that it's not that I'm not that confident, but in over 6 years and my results and seeing all my graphs and everything should show that I do have an edge in this game. I just don't know what that number is. So
Yeah.
I'm leaning more to the conservative side. Yet there are some sharper people that have told me, said based on what they've seen from that, I should be more aggressive. No, you do have an edge. You should be more aggressive. And I'm like yeah, but if I get I can't I don't lose $25,000 in a night. I mean, like I just like I'm just not psychologically built for that.
I think I did want to say on the NFL playing more volume, it is just the one sport that you have access to the truly like year changing, life changing upside. You know, like on any given night in NBA, you might have $100,000 up top in a tournament on a site, and it's probably just their big whatever $15 on DraftKings or something like that, which is like I don't even play that, and so I don't so like there is something to be said for like, okay, yes, we're playing this game every single day, we're playing multiple sports and stuff like that, but this is the one sport which also, like you mentioned, simultaneously has the softest action, has maybe some other different variables as it relates to kind of ownership leverage and all that different stuff that we can go in and like get like I got I can't get sixth in an NBA contest tonight and make 30 grand. Not happening.
Well, because they don't run a $4,000 contest. I mean, they could. If
Right.
they did, you
But you
could.
know what I mean. But you know what I mean. Like that it just like doesn't like the especially the higher stakes stuff. Like they're like struggling to fill like a 15-man $2,000 contest on DraftKings, and like everything is smaller. I think Ricky D went in, had a good thread or a good tweet or something like that before, or like right at the beginning of the NBA season. It was basically like, maybe these DFS sports like NBA and stuff are not going to be growing. People keep talking about like, oh, sports betting is here, and there's this kind of debate whether sports betting is going to help DFS or kill DFS. In reality, it's probably kind of somewhere in the middle. But like the contests are not getting bigger for basketball and baseball, certainly not really for hockey either. And NFL, I guess maybe like or about the same. But DFS is really just kind of like a customer acquisition tool for these sites. And so with that being said, NFL is the one spot where like we can have this podcast the next day and like one of us can win 250 grand or something like that. Like you just can't really do that. I know you have more slates in the other sports, but I do think there's a reason to up your volume in NFL. But as it relates to the cash game thing, I think it's a lot of those different variables. I think everybody feels it's definitely what we talked about with the equation, right? Where there's people that are too far one way or there's no middle ground, right? Everybody that just says like, oh, I have to chase every cent of EV, or then there's the other people
Right.
that are like too far on the other end. I think that's the case kind of here too. We have the exact same thing. There's kind of like no real middle ground, when again, that's kind of usually probably what it is. People, I gotta go, the cash game thing. I have to play these cash games, or I mean, like, listen to like Brick. We talk about Brick quite a bit here because he's shared some awesome thoughts from a sharp tournament, but like, he doesn't play cash games. He just plays tournaments.
No,
And
most
listening
most of the MME players don't play any cash games at all.
Yeah, which I've always kind of found interesting, because I think I've stubbornly played cash, and I think I've grown to a more acceptable approach to cash games for me personally. And I do think the FanDuel thing, I think, is an important kind of caveat. I have not played much FanDuel like over my life. I've played 95% of my volume on DraftKings. So same thing, I can play the $1 and $2 contests and stuff on FanDuel. So I think that's an important caveat that I'm trying to consider, and just the overall, what I perceive to be the softness of FanDuel, like the players on FanDuel. You also have a lot of sharps that have moved away from FanDuel. So you're a little less likely to run into some of, like, I remember Bryce Morrow, Third and Schlong is his name. He tweeted about how he's not playing FanDuel anymore, which I don't even know if that's true, but he tweeted it at the beginning of the season, like he's not going to play FanDuel. And he's not the only one. There's lots of other people that are in similar buckets. So there are reasons, I think, still to play FanDuel. But as we've had this conversation, I've started to even think, like, kind of the same as you. This was maybe just like a lazy crutch, whether it was because, like, I think it's like potential false allure of a floor that I think I'm giving myself. Maybe also like a false allure of, like, kind of this mental health thing. Like, you think, oh, I can't go to 0 in cash games, so this is going to help me feel better, the next day, because I didn't just go all in on tournaments, which is not true.
Yeah, but but the difference is that tournaments, by their design, I have the expectation of airballing.
Right.
But cash games, they don't have that expectation. So when you kind of airball them, like, that's a big deal.
It shakes you more. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the thing. And for a 3% return, is it even worth that? Where I
don't think so. That's where I've
right. I know you're going to agree with me.
I don't think I felt that before we even necessarily started this conversation, but it's because I hadn't put the time and thought and talked to somebody about it like this, where I think it's probably just been a lazy approach to something that is not worth the time for the expected return that I'm going to get. And it's probably, and like we talked about before, there's reasons it could be hurting my overall play, right? I could have a 3% return on cash games, but it's hurting my GPP play, whether it's taking away my thought from it. The thoughts are seeping into my tournament teams, blah, 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 right? So I could end up pissing away that 3% ROI if I even have that, if I have that ROI. So it's been an enlightening thing to kind of think about. But like I said, I do think there are caveats, right? And there are probably, some people might say you need to play Yahoo cash games or something. I don't do that, but some people might say that I think that's probably the most interesting part of the conversation, is like, where's the tipping point, right? I think DraftKings is like, I'm not sure that that's worth my time at all, but the other sites is like the discussion point.
Right. Well, you're finding the softest competition for the edge, but I'm talking about more of it's not. It's weird to say this, because remember last week I'm like, I won 99% of my head-to-heads, right? I mean, like
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Right. So and this week I'm like, well, I got dusted on both sites, and it's like, maybe this isn't worth, like from week to. But to me, I don't want to. I'd rather not. The point that I'm making is that swing up and down is inevitable. You can't avoid it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be like, how do I avoid this going up, going down, going up, going down? Like, you're in the wrong business. You're in the wrong hobby, wrong way to try to make money. It's going to be swingy. The thing is,
do it.
But I don't mind in GPPs to do it that way. But I don't want swings like that in cash games where the upside is limited to begin with. And if I see that, like, dude, if I don't have a significant enough edge in cash games, just like the 300, if I have a $300 expected return on 10 grand, like, I'll just take away the 10 grand. My expected return in GPPs is actually higher. It's just that the swings are a little bigger, right? So instead of taking the $10,000 and putting into GPPs and now have $12,000 swings, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, well, take out those cash games and put another thousand. Now I'm playing $3,000, but all in
Right.
GPPs, and I never have the feeling of like, well, number one, if I airball, it doesn't hit me. It's like it's GPP. What I'm playing for first. I'm gonna get some airballs every so often.
Mm-hmm.
If I do that in MMA on Saturday. Before the last fight, I was up $8,000. After the last fight, it was down 1,500. As long as if Jan Blachowicz would have just won the fight, I would have made about $8,000, right? Because I had the optimal in a single entry 3-max contest.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the optimal in the large field would have split too many ways that I didn't end up playing it. The optimal, like not the optimal projection lineup, the optimal like best lineup you could possibly construct, because that's the way MMA is. But like that I could deal like from going like that to like, oh, I lost like I put in $4,500 and I lost 1,500. Like I just move on with my day. I mean, like that doesn't faze me in any sense of the imagination. But like, and more than I don't risk like if I wasn't playing cash games, there would be no day that I could possibly lose more than $5,000. I mean, like there's no chance of that because I don't play for that much percentage of my bankroll. So like, why do I want those swings in what is it worth it enough? And that edge in cash games is only going to go down.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like, oh, I'm getting a 3% return on average. Right. I'm hovering between 2 and 3%. Well, then next year it's going to be hovering between 1.5% and 2%. Then next year after that, it's going to be hovering between 1 and 1.5%. And then it's like, what am I doing? What for this? Like, oh, it's someone instead of my line going down like that, it's going down like this. Like the difference in that angle is not being that dramatic. I know a lot of tournament players who probably listen to this and go, "You just fucking quit cash. Why'd you even start playing?" Like some of their attitudes are just like, I don't even know why you're even bothering. Like just and like that's this is an easy decision.
That's how I feel now. Like I feel like I've known this subconsciously for like a long time. Like, you know, it's like, because when I started playing, this was extremely profitable. I max all the up through the whatever, like $20 head-to-heads on every side. Max, because when I could play the low stakes stuff on DraftKings, max all that, smash as many, I'd be just smashing all the double ups, right? Yeah, from $5, well, again, low stakes. I would have so much in play and cash because the expected return was that much higher. Like you were giving away money,
right?
And it was legitimately.
Just to put it in perspective, when I played cash games, when I started playing, so up until 2019. Where I got on DraftKings, middle of 2019 is when I got restricted from the $1 to $2 from the lower stakes. And primarily, remember, I play lower percentage of my bankroll, so I could fill $1,000 worth of volume primarily in the lower stakes, right? By playing all the $1 double ups, all the $2, especially in NFL, right? Just I don't even have to play any contest that's over $5. My return in NFL cash games. My first season of playing NFL was 15%.
Exactly.
So now at 15%, playing at 10,000, absolute now $1,500 expected return a week times 18 weeks. Now I don't mind as much anymore. But once you eliminate the low stakes,
now that does have that. Okay, you are building in an actual bit of a floor now.
Right.
You are smoothing out the those benefits that we talked about that are maybe false now. Those did exist, and so I got myself, I think, into that's just how I play NFL, right? You come into the season, and that's just what you do with NFL. Go post your head-to-heads on Tuesday or whatever, and like you fire the double ups throughout the week, blah blah blah, and like it was just like that's how I've just like gotten into that habit, and I think as we've talked it through, and like you said. I was probably just being lazy and stubborn, and the good players will be like, "You're a fucking idiot. Why are you doing that?" But I think it was hopefully helpful this conversation for me to be more thoughtful. Definitely be a lot more even if I'm going to play some cash, I need to be a lot more thoughtful about it.
Yeah, but I like the way that you put it. That in 2021 cash games, it feels like even if you're good at them, like it gives you it gives you a fake floor. Like
Yeah, that's what it is.
it's because but it's really not. But the thing is that it kind of is. It kind of isn't, because I could take my graph. Like I'll take a look. I mean, I'm not going to load it now,
Yeah.
but I think the last out. If I took my results from 2000, like 18, like once I started building up a bankroll, once I had six-figure bankrolls and was out of more of the lower stakes contests, like my graph, if I just removed double ups and head to heads from my graph, the graph doesn't look any significantly different. The slopes are like just like I said, the angle is slightly
Just tiny
right,
different. Yep.
tiny different, because it's like it's superimposing a 2% return like the
Yeah,
whole way
true.
through. So it's not like it's not dramatically changing that much. In the beginning, it would. If I took out a 15, if I was getting 12 to 15%, I was playing NBA the first, and just 12%, because I'm playing the $1-2 games, and
Yep.
like then that made a difference. That
I used to
angle
play
smoothed out.
baseball. I used to play baseball cash games. I played golf cash games. I played them. I played them all because of exactly what you said. I believe that even when you're not, I wasn't the world's best cash player, but like I can figure out how to how to find that, at least close to the optimal. I know how to make a good cash team, even if I'm not necessarily always making the stone cold best cash team. And so just being able to do that, was it, like you said, you could get 10, 15, 20% ROIs across like all these. So it did make sense back then. But yeah, now I don't think I can. I don't think I can do that. Like, admittedly, like I'm not even trying to put up some false bravado. Like, oh, I could be an awesome cash player. Like, I don't even think I could. And even if I could, like you said, I don't even know if it's worth it.
Right. It's a worth it thing. It's not
Yeah.
anything else. I'm going to say this as I set up my head to heads for next NFL Sunday,
Yeah,
and
exactly. I
go
think
like,
I have it
what am
open
I
right.
doing?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. Who are you playing in Showdown Cash tonight?
But some people say Showdown Cash is a pretty fest.
I know. I've seen some friends that do very well in Showdown Cash. Adam, ship my money. I think he does really well
Right.
In Showdown Cash.
Me, I'm playing for give me the right. Give me the top. Give me the top.
Yep.
Erik Beimfohr on Twitter. I think this is a worthwhile discussion, right?
I like the discussions where it's like talking through these random, this like how should you approach the game, right? Like that's all we're really talking about. Like you mentioned, a lot of the shows would be like we sign in on this Monday morning and be like, "See, I fucking told you, Michael Pittman, right? I told you, you got to play
Right. You
Michael
got to,
Pittman."
oh,
But
dude,
like that,
lock of the slate, right?
yeah, Michael Pittman and Chris Godwin and Daryl Henderson. Imagine fading, right? Put
Right.
those three
Imagine
together.
fading this chalk. Imagine. Yeah, but Swift didn't make it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention how I said Swift was a lot, right? Like that type of shit. I just, it's so selective. And like the fact of the matter is that maybe the reason why I get upset at that is because there's enough of the audience is dumb enough that's like it's one of those things where just like I is the audience that dumb that you just like, I wrote an article with 8 things and I got 4 of them right, and I'm going to mention the 4 and you're going to love me for it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention the 4 things that I got completely wrong. And then the audience thinks it's about getting the right and wrong things. And then you listen to us and it's like it's not about either of those things. Right? It's like the results of whether or not you were right or wrong don't even matter. Right? It's just building good lineups and like, yeah, play 4 of those things and just do it in 4 different combinations. And
Yeah.
one's going to be right, one's going to be wrong. Hopefully you have all 8 things in one lineup, and that's what wins. And you go, well, then what? Yeah, that's how you play DFS, right?
But that's why I find the conversations about like, okay, like should you be playing cash or should you be upping your volume on NFL Sundays, or like should you be just approaching, like you said, should you be approaching DFS, like, and when we talk about it, like the players are just
Pieces.
the chess pieces
Right.
in this game that we're playing. So why isn't every slate just like, the next task, right? In your career, the next step of your roadmap of your career. It's like the sport doesn't matter. Why does the sport matter? So I think that's an interesting thing. Like, why am I playing differently on NFL Sunday versus tonight for
For
or why am I
NBA,
playing
right?
differently?
Embiid's out. I gotta play Drummond in all my lineups.
Got to play more cash. Got to play more NBA cash because the 2% of people that aren't going to play Andre Drummond, right? That's people say that bullshit too. But that's the thing. Is like, and that's no. I don't know that. I mean, some of the best players in the world have that kind of thing figured out for them probably. But like, I don't have it. Obviously, we just talked about it. I think I was fucking up with the cash game thing, or I don't have a good answer to like exactly how much should you change your volume on an NFL Sunday. So like,
But I don't think the
anybody
best
really
players
knows.
have that answer. I think maybe some come across that they do, but I think that
They think they do, yeah.
right. But to me, I think that's the valuable point of like I think it's more beneficial to question than to be confident than to. I'd rather question. Maybe I got something wrong on Michael. Maybe even though he wasn't projected better than some of these guys, and just I need to figure out where my ownership thing went wrong.
Yeah.
Not because Pittman did well, because if he would have got injured on the first play, I would have done the same exact thing. Go, why the hell was he
We did
28% owned?
we did this conversation on Odell. And
Right,
Odell sucked.
exactly.
He tanked. It's the same thing. It's the same.
Right.
It's the same thing. The random guy gets steamed at 30%, and you're like, "What the fuck just happened? Why is this guy, that didn't even project that much better, or didn't project better at all than the people around him? Why is he this?" So the conversation
Right,
is
and the same
important.
thing with contest selection. Like, why am I playing this much in cash games? Why should I be doing like? Am I doing something wrong? And it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's like what's more optimal for my equation,
Yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly.
And for my equation, maybe it isn't. Maybe it isn't worth it. And then some people may respond, "Oh, because you're not good enough at cash games." It's like I don't. No one can be that great. I mean, seriously, no one can be that unless you're grabbing like whale shit action. Like I understand why. I mean, even Levitan says it on his podcast. It's like he probably would stop playing cash games if it wasn't for the fact that bad players just want to try to beat him. I mean, like, and God bless him or whatever like that. So
Yeah.
like,
He posts teams sometimes, and I'm like, that team was shittier. You scored less points than my cash team, and he's like, yep, won 78% of head-to-heads. I'm like, I fucking broke even, and I had scored more points than you, and you're just crushing because like you said, it's getting good action.
right, but I mean, but just questioning, I think that's a sign of you're doing something good. If you're, I think that the overall thing is that if you're playing DFS and confidence is, it's weird because in most aspects of life, confidence is a good thing. Typically, confidence breeds success. Even if it's fake confidence, you could walk into a business room, and if you're confident, people buy your shit, right?
Yep.
But I think in DFS, it's more detrimental to be confident. And I'm not talking about confident on specific plays, but confident that, like,
You have the answers.
right, that you have all the answers. And I know that sometimes because of my style of speech, I come across as like I have all the answers, but I don't have all the answers. All I'm saying is this is what I've done and this is what I found. And I'd like to have a discussion on, is this conceptually accurate? Can you be more yes, can I be more precise? Yes, absolutely. But I'm constantly questioning. I mean, dude, I was questioning in 2016 starting to play MLB that stacking wouldn't be optimal. I went through that experimentation of like, is there a leverage way of doing this? Like, well, everyone's going to play Altuve, and I'm going to play Cesar Hernandez, right? Like that type of that type of thinking. Turned out that the correlation was way more valuable than that. But yeah. I looked at what other people were doing and say, is this the best way? Because you go back to 2013 DFS and people weren't even goddamn stacking in MLB, and I didn't play back then. And then people learned that was more optimal to do. But I'm like, maybe there's even more optimal way, right? So I can't just go in and go, nope. Like when people come to me and say, oh, you got to play 3+1 with a run back, you're right, in NFL. I go, no, it depends on the lineup, right? Yeah. There's no rule one or the other. I'll probably lean more towards correlation, but it depends on how well the guys project in the game, and it depends on a lot of these other things. But the more confident you are, the less you block out all of other variables that could potentially you're not weighing appropriately enough. And the difference between two sharper players that are playing DFS is their confidence in their weights, not in the weights themselves.
Yes.
If you put it that, I don't think there's any sharp DFS player that could just say that, like, there's certain things that, like, nope, not important at all. Like bankroll management, not important. Like contest selection, not important. It just comes down to how much they weighted. We have some guys that very precise on their player projections, do a lot of good sims, but their contest selection is like, I'm just pressing the max button and fuck it, right? And then there's some people that do the complete opposite of like, well, I'm a good, like I'm just going to, there's some people that I know that I'm just going to play the projected optimal from a projection set and then just do the best contest selection I could find and find the weakest fucking players and eke out. You're getting a 3% return. I'm getting a 7% return because I'm finding the dumb fucks, right?
Yep.
But that's completely viable also. So like it's really the confidence in the weights of how you play DFS. That, going back to that equation, is more. Some people that risk weight is like broken, especially in DFS, right?
Yep.
The risk weight is like, oh, so I lost $200,000 yesterday, and like that, like let's go to the park, right? Like that type of. And I'm not built that way. I don't have a bankroll of that size or whatever. I'm not risking that percentage of my bankroll, so I weight different things differently. But I think the confidence in your, like, I'm never confident in my weights. Am I playing too conservative? Should I be playing more aggressive? Should I be playing large? I'm playing large field. I'm playing small field. I'm playing large field. I'm playing, right? And we go through this all the time. Like, I think I'm only going to play 20 lineups, and so I could focus. Oh, that worked. The next week is like, maybe I shouldn't be playing cash games, right? Then the week after that, it's like, oh, if I would have had 150 lineups, I probably would have binged, but I only played 20. So the next week I'm going to play, like, constantly questioning, like, what am I good at and where should I be going? I think the sign is the sign of a good player. Someone that's been playing the same way since 2015. And just like I play the same contest that, like, I think that's the bad way to go because you're never never contemplating, like, what could you be doing to either mitigating your risk or increasing your return. And if you're not doing that, like, it's eventually you're going to be losing money because you're not advancing yourself.
Yeah, it's funny because we do this show and it turns into like it's like a great like lesson learned time. Like not even just like, I think people think about it like, oh, they're doing it after the football slate, or maybe sometimes we're talking about, we'll get to NBA season, baseball, blah, 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 and be like, oh, they're talking about that slate and like the lessons we learned about, that play. And of course there are things like that too. But I'm like showing up on Monday mornings and I always take something away that is like how, like you said, how I can either improve my game or how, like, the things that I should be thinking about. Like we just talked, I just want to be more thoughtful about XYZ, right? I don't have the answer yet. Maybe we haven't even come to any like solution or whatever, but there are things that I know that I can improve upon and I want to improve upon. And I just need to, like I said, be more thoughtful about those kinds of things. And I think that really is it. Like you said, that's the summary. That's it. That's like, how can we, and I believe in like the strong beliefs, loosely held thing. Like I believe in certain things from within DFS, but exactly like what you said, I'm more than open to questioning these things. Right. Like the stupid bringbacks conversation. Like it's so dumb. It's one of the dumbest things that's happened in DFS in forever. People saying like, oh, people have been winning tournaments without bringbacks. Are you paying attention? Are you learning that now we shouldn't be bringing it back? It's like, well, you never should have always been bringing it back.
Right. You should never have been forcing that to begin with. Right?
And the other times you should be playing it. Like, guess what? If I didn't play AJ Brown as a bringback to the Pittman Wentz team, I'm a fucking idiot. Like that would, or some kind of bringback. Like that was stupid. Like you should be because because of everything that you said, projection, right? Price, blah, 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 all the ownership, all that shit matters more than just the correlate. It's not just fucking correlation, right? So, but that's the thing. It's good that we're questioning that. I'm happy. I think that the industry is doing some of the questioning.
Yeah, but some people are too confident, like no or yes, and it's like it's neither.
Yeah.
It's neither.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing is it's like that's the problem that comes from this, and that's why it's become so stupid. It's good. We're evolving and talking about like, okay, we know we should be stacking because correlation is good, but what about this? That's good. But we get to this point again where, like you said, people show up and they talk about the plays. Like, I got this right and I got that right, and I feel confident in my takes. And it's like, well, you shouldn't feel that way about the yes and no of the bring back thing, because it's actually, well, maybe. The answer is like, maybe. It depends, you know? And so I always, I use, this is like a selfish way for me. The podcast is like a selfish way for me to improve my game and stay on the right path, because it's easy. I mean, we just talked about like bouncing back and forth between, you know, you're experimenting with things, or maybe you go through a rut, maybe you aren't playing bad, or you aren't playing well, or whatever, or maybe you are playing well but you're just running bad, figuring all that
Right.
shit
I
out.
mean,
Like,
look at what I said. I think look at what you did this week compared to some other weeks where I looked at your small field lineup and go, why are you
yeah.
giving up this much projection to do this? Like this is too much shit. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know you understand. Like, and it's like I'm talking to someone that knows. I know you understand this. Just that you get carried away, and it's just like,
Yes.
right,
Yeah,
you
100%.
do this, I could also do that, and it's like, dude, you're playing against 250 people. It's like, dude, fade DeAndre Swift, play Nick Chubb, play Deontay Johnson across from it, and then press the optimize button. Then just literally just press the fucking optimal button, and like
Yep.
they and you played the stack, the chalk combat, like that's all. And even
Easy
then,
game,
I
yeah.
looked at that lineup and I said, like, even then, that's still a little too contrarian. You could have
Mm-hmm.
probably played a little bit. You probably played Cooks instead of Johnson, and then not play the
Yep.
Washington defense and played some other and probably you may have won the tournament if you did that, right?
Right.
And that would have been a higher projected lineup. But it's you can't improve in your game unless you're talking to other people. You're the ones. You're playing these smaller field things and. Before we started this last year, like I would just constantly be playing 100 lineups into the large field and whatever like that, and so like maybe I need to work more in my small field. Maybe that's a better path. I don't know. I don't know if it is, but I wouldn't know without trying. And I could see the way
Yep.
that you're playing. I study some lineups, and of course I had some single entry wins in NBA last year,
Yep.
right? And in NFL as well. And I'm like, oh, maybe no, this isn't $100,000. Right, I'm not playing the 100,000 to first, but I'm playing 5,000 to first, $7,500 to first on $100 entry, small fee. I'm like, maybe this is the better way. Maybe I get for my equation, especially when my equation isn't trying to win all the money.
Yep.
So it's like maybe I do a mix of both. Maybe I go, this is the type of slate for this. I don't know until I do it and listen to other sharper. I'm not trying to. I think a lot of people, Eric, because people ask me like, what contest do you play? How much bankroll do you like? There's no correct answer. Like whatever works for you. I don't know what your strengths are. I don't know what I don't know what opponents you're facing. I don't know any of this. So the only thing that you could do is just like, am I good at small field? Am I good at large field? Am I good at cash games? What sports? Right? Am I good at more variant sports, high variant sports, low variant sports? You know, some people are good at golf. Some people are good at MMA. Some people are good at soccer. Like depends on what. Like soccer, the contest structures for this large field are fucking ridiculous. 20,000 to first and fucking $100 to eighth place. Like, so I just don't. I barely play. Maybe I play 6 entries or something like that. So I focus on cash and like small field when they have a decent structure, 100 man, 150 man, and it's like. Certain slates I do that, certain slates I don't. But most of the time I'm still playing some cash lineup or something. But that works
Right.
for me in soccer. In NBA, I don't mind playing cash games across multiple sites. And then now I'm building the smaller field lineups. 2 weeks from now, maybe I'm playing 100 entries into the whatever large field. Maybe. From that, I don't know. Let's see what the field, what types of things go on. And so there's no one answer. So like to me, anytime someone has the one answer, it's almost impossible for them to be right. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird to say that, right? If someone says this is the answer, you should play 80% in cash games, 20% in GPPs. You should play these contests and those contests and these contests. It can't be the right answer because it may be the right answer for them, but it may not be the right answer for you.
Exactly. And I think that, yeah, it is kind of funny that like the evolution of the podcast, because that's kind of what it has become, you know, not even just like you dabbling in the smaller field stuff, but like I mean, like my gal brain, like you said, that is 1,000,000% my biggest flaw, but I'm aware of it. I know that it's going to happen again this season,
Right.
probably that I do it, but like I'm aware of it, and you continue to try to work on it and talk to someone that has that part probably a little bit better down than I do, and so it's a good evolution. Like you said, I play the college sports. The two college sports are like two of my favorite, maybe my two favorite sports to play. Kind of probably like soccer for you, but same thing. Like I can't win anything. Like, I can't sustain my life on college basketball and college football DFS. But I play very 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 different in those because of exactly like what you said. The contests are different. There's also very minimal amounts of contests. There's very minimal amounts of we get late season college basketball DFS. There's like at least I don't know if anybody has me blocked, but there'll be like three dudes in the in the head-to-head lobby, and it's like, well, if I'm gonna play, I only got certain options, and so that is different for me in that sport. Like you said, how you play soccer is different, right? And so everybody just has to figure all of those things out. And this show for me is like a never-ending, evolution of me trying to figure out that how do I apply last week's show? How do I apply my equation to all these variables to figure out what works best for me? And it's technically really kind of like an unsolvable question because it's always evolving and the DFS is always evolving. But that's the goal, right? I'm just trying to find out how to best play for all the different variables in my equation.
Right. And if you have any questions, I mean, I've never said it. You could always email in questions at theoryofdfs.com. In the beginning, we used to take questions, but I mean, a lot of times we just end up talking about whatever we see on Twitter, whatever people are chatting about, or anything. You could so you could always email. You could always email the show, theoryofdfs.com, questions at theoryofdfs.com. So you're up on me on the so it's weird, right? Right? If it could that we're what 8 weeks in, and you've had one winning week and 7 losing weeks. Me, I've had 4 winning weeks and 4 losing weeks. So for a small profit, and you're way ahead of me now.
Yeah, one funny, and like it is really funny because I've showed up every month every Monday for 7 weeks and been like, yep, fuck this up. Yep, then closed the laptop at whatever 2 o'clock. Then never thought about the slate again. And then yeah, this is just get a good one. If Dan Arnold wasn't such an asshole or Urban Meyer wasn't such an asshole, it would have been even better. But that's how it goes. And was lucky, the got close, like I said, in the $4,000 contest, but the two live final tickets, King of the one for King of the Beach, which is not quite the same. You got to advance. You got to make one more round. Basically, they cut down the field, and then you get to go to the actual event. But I was able to get a couple of those.
What week is the championship final? Is what week 17? Week 16?
It's December 19th. I only remember
Week
that.
15,
So I don't know
maybe?
what. Yeah, I don't know what week that is.
Because I know they wouldn't
But
do it on the last week of the season because that's stupid.
no, usually second to last or third to last. I think I didn't make it last year. Yeah, obviously my
And
year was
where's it?
shitty.
Where's it going to
But
be? Where's it this year?
Miami, it's in
Okay.
Miami.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was not. It was just it's everybody needs a little bit of good luck here and there, and I think I got some good luck, especially in the live final queue, and then it gives you some upside right throughout the rest of the year. It got additional upside baked in towards the back
Are
of
you
the
going to try to
season,
get
which
more seats, or you done?
I don't know. I don't know yet. I'll probably play for King of the Beach is real low dollar stuff. Anywhere from like $20 to $100 qualifiers. So I might dabble in that, but obviously up pretty big in the big live final from getting one already in the first few weeks. So I don't know if I'll attack that. Might take some time off and come back. We've talked about that in the past before, where let all these whales get their max
Mm.
entries and then come back in and chase the overlay at the end. Maybe just play some satellites or something like that. That's what I do like to kind of people that want to dabble. There will be, even if you don't have the bankroll for the live final type stuff, there's times where it can make some sense if you really want to try to chase one of those tickets because the experience is pretty fun. And just to have the shot at the upside is also pretty fun. So
right,
yeah,
and you're more likely to be able to get your money in better later in the season.
Yep.
Once people have had 3 or 5 or whatever the max there. I do that for like King of the Pitch most years, right?
Yep.
For the soccer, it's not a live final, but it's a whatever. It's just like I wait for Saramek got his max, Redcoat, Pew, and then you're sitting there. It's a 20-person qualifier, and it's 5 minutes to go before lock, and it's only filled 12 out of 20. And it's like,
Yep.
okay, well that's like automatic overlay. So like, I'll let me go, let me do it then. Right. I'm a
Yep.
nit. I'm a nit, Eric. I'm looking for any little edge I could get.
Yeah, and that'll happen once Whistles will get his. Whistles might already have the fucking max.
Whistles already won. They already gave him the prize. They already gave him the big check.
We're all playing for second. Yeah, just give him goddamn first.
Okay, so Eric, congrats. I don't say nice things enough, right? Congratulations.
Thank you.
But we all know that you're gonna come back next week with the fucking airball.
Stone cold lock.
Did you see next week's slate? Lock. Next week's slate is an abomination.
I haven't. It can't get much worse than this. This one was horrible too.
No, take a look at the games. There may not be a total over 50. I think next week.
Jesus Christ!
Right.
And Henry's hurt, and Derrick Henry's hurt now, and Calvin.
How do you feel about? Before we go for just for half a second, but best.
Damn it! I never.
Darrington Evans is on the IR, and you picked the perfect. You have the most amount of the guy that would benefit if Henry is out, and he got injured before Henry got injured.
That is like the perfect synopsis of like, I don't know, my fantasy career or something like that. Cause like, it turned into like a little bit of a bit, but I thought he was like, if we're talking leverage, whatever value, however you want to quantify a fucking late round fantasy football pick. I was like, this is the guy. Everybody thinks, no, Derrick Henry can't get hurt, blah, 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 blah. And like, you get it right, but you get it so wrong. Like, he also could not possibly be more wrong. Cause obviously he's played like 8 snaps on the entire season, and been on IR the rest of the time. So it was the fantasy gods had to give me a little kick in the junk the morning after having my first good NFL Sunday. They couldn't let me, feel too good about things. So it was like, just so bittersweet to be so right, but like so far wrong.
The other thing is, who would have thought at this point in the season, if you'd have said 4 months ago that Latavius Murray would be the lead running back for the Ravens and Mark Ingram would be back on the Saints, like how did that happen?
And Adrian Peterson's about to be the lead running back on the team bound for the playoffs, the Titans.
Running backs, you can't live with them, and you can't not draft them. Right. Okay, so as always, you can pick up the Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports 15-hour audio DFS Masterclass at theoryofdfs.com.